The algorithm served me up this video that just says, what does E mean? And it's like a special E. And it's specifically apparently about like how there is a little E on some packages that have like quantities of like powder and solid goods that's kind of just like poured in there. And it's like, the E claims that this is how much like should be there, basically. Like it's supposed to be averaging like this number of stuff. But you know, because of the type of matter here, like potato chips or whatnot, it's not always guaranteed exactly how much is going to be in there. It's just less of a precise measurement, or at least that's my paraphrasing version of a video I was half paying attention to. No offense to Chris Spargo, who I've never heard of until today. But the reason I was half paying attention was because it was reigniting a thought that I've had over and over again about YouTube and how funny of a platform this is, because this is just a guy doing like a little science teacher experiment. Like he's just like putting stuff on a little scale. And he's like, oh, it said 7 on the package and it's 7.03. It does. See, it's at or above, just like the number says. It's the thing I'm saying. And it's like, so much of YouTube is people doing high school level experiments and lessons and so on, or just like demonstrating a thing. Like this fact is the thing that, like, here's the thing I'm explaining. And now here's the little thing that shows, you see, it's true. Oh, and it varies from Veritasium to video essays to explainers. I don't remember what explainers are exactly. Science communication videos. And to be clear, I'm not disparaging this at all. It's something that I found very amusing about this entire dynamic is that we all hated high school for the most part. There's a lot of reasons to hate high school. You're not that old yet, so you don't have a super strong awareness of the world. You're young, so you have a lot of like things that you like want to be doing and are certain or more interested in. You don't have impulse control. Your parts of your brain are still developing for a while and so on. But also it's like the most horrible regimented schedule of like, here's 8 hours of consecutive classes, sit through a lecture after another lecture after another lecture in this weird fragmented way, being shuffled from teacher to teacher. Now go home and do homework for like half of those classes in the same day. Like, it's actually wild that like students are expected to spend more time doing school than most people are supposed to do for any job, unless they have multiple jobs, unfortunately, or they have crazy overtime and stuff like that. Because like you already spent 8 hours in school. What do you mean you go home and do more work on top of that and you spend all your time in school? So I get it. It's also just not as fun when you're obviously being forced to do school. And you're being told you have to do it. It's fundamentally different. It's just like how people say not to monetize your hobbies in many cases, because if something is your hobby and it's something that you use to vent and to use as an outlet emotionally and so on, and like it's a thing that serves an important role in your daily life and part of who you even are on some level, that if you then turn it into your job, like I keep doing, it does make that a mandatory thing that you have to be working on all the time, which means you don't really have a choice, and it's not really the same kind of thing. To be clear, the Let's Playing stuff, like when it comes to my gaming channel, I'm doing pretty all right. I do kind of enjoy the particular little space that I'm in, but I've also been constantly aware of the fact that my dad was also self-employed and he hated it, even though he specifically took the thing that he liked and made it his job. It did not go well for him in the long term, so it's always something to worry about. But yeah, like there's a difference between self-driven curiosity and state-mandated curiosity. So I get that it's not the same thing exactly. But at the same time, I've constantly thought about this. I think about this several times when I'm making any of my videos on the video essay channel. My video essays are book reports. They're not always about books, but you know what I mean? Like people are flocking to me in the hundreds of thousands sometimes to watch a book report. It's a book report I put a lot of work into, a lot more work than I ever put into my real book reports in high school, because I think I've said this a few times, but like I used to write my essays the day they were due, largely speaking, and I would bullshit a lot of them because I just kind of realized what it took to get a good grade and didn't really care that much about the quality of the thing. And that is kind of a dynamic here, is that in high school, the things you make don't exist for the purpose of being art. There is a fundamental difference here. When you make a video essay or YouTube video or other related types of YouTube video, blah, 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 so many genres, you are creating some kind of art form thing that represents you and your audience. If they like the thing, they like your writing and your personality, and they're coming back to look at your face and so on. So it is a different level of fulfillment to have a thing that endures and has a standing thing. Whereas like when you write a book report or essay or do a speech or whatever, at most you might end up presenting it in front of 30 people that aren't paying attention. But in most cases, you give it to the teacher and you don't know how much the teacher pays attention to what they're doing when they have to grade all of them in one go. But you just get back a letter grade and like some criticisms. And then no one sees that again, because even if you tried, probably no one would want to read your book report because it's a book report. But when we rebrand them as video essays and queer readings and stuff like that, suddenly our excruciatingly in detail analysis of a particular form of media is really engaging and interesting. It's easy to want to phrase this as like a gotcha, like, haha, I should have cared more about high school because high school was like this the whole time. But it's not really, is it? These are very similar. Like video essays, when done correctly, are an essay. That word's the really important part there. Not everyone gets that, and there's in fact some channels that supposedly make video essays that I think aren't video essays because they don't have a thesis. Like they make videos that are just kind of going on about some shit. Like when I make my queer analysis video on Lego She Is Gay and so on, I'm not saying I'll always do a perfect job on the B-Stars videos or whatever like that. But my goal is to have a specific thesis and then have everything be reinforcing that particular point and that argument and being persuasive on that point and supporting that argument, because that's what an essay is supposed to be. Specifically, in the case of this Beast Complex one down here, I went chapter by chapter through all of the different Beast Complex stories, and I wrote something about all of them. But then I cut all of the chapters that didn't support my thesis. Not because they were contradicting it, because I know it's an anthology and then inherently know that the anthologies aren't going to all inherently be super related to a queer reading, just like how not every chapter of Beastars was. But I sat there and I had a bunch of writing. I could have made a longer video because I did have forms of analysis about various chapters. I had things to say about other chapters, and maybe I'll even make a bonus video at some point about that. In fact, I think I intended to read through it for Patreon at some point and then just didn't end up doing that or something. I can't believe that video is a year old now. That's upsetting to me. That's technically my most recent video essay. Fuck. But that shook me a little bit. Sorry. But yeah, I cut those all out because they didn't support the thesis, because there is a definition to these things. In a similar way, a queer reading has a particular academic meaning, whether or not I always nail it, and it's in fact not the same thing as what the comments often say, which is when people are just like, "You just want to make everything gay," is what the naysayers will always say. And I'm like, no, I'm applying a queer reading that is a proven and long established form of media criticism and critique or analysis, whatever. See, look at me mixing up these terms as if they're all the same thing. It's because I'm a fake YouTuber. But like that's I thought losing my train of thought a little bit today. It's the first thing in the morning, I guess. But that's the point of these kinds of videos. You're applying a particular format to it. And that's why certain video essayists very much hit differently. A Lindsay Ellis comes at things from a very academic perspective. So does Folding Ideas. And they have a very specific structure and approach to how they write and what their point is. And that's part of why probably Lindsay Ellis videos are turning more and more into documentaries too. And there's a lot of like second, third, fourth wave video essayists. These are undefined terms. I'm just making up the idea of there being generations of video essayists. A lot of them just don't really get it because they just think it's about writing a really long thing that you care about a lot about, which is okay, but it's definitely not always the same genre of video. Sometimes it genuinely is just like a structured ramble that it's like a ramble you wrote first. And sometimes they're not even written first. Whereas like somebody like CJ the X is very aware of the fact that there is a role to be had for like gatekeeping, and that academia inherently has some level of standards, and CJ the X actually cares a lot about the way that they write their essays and what they're putting out into the world, but also like what they're accomplishing and whether or not they're even like whether or not there is an academic rigor in their writings throughout what they do. And particularly I saw them live in Vancouver because I went to visit a friend specifically to see CJ the X live, but also to visit my friend again. And like there was an actual like expert in their field in the front row of their audience, and they were really excited about that because they could actually like check in with them and see how they're doing and what their opinion is of how this lecture went and stuff like that, because that's actually somebody that can actually let you know if you're even on the right track and whether or not you're actually doing your thing correctly. Like it all loops back around to like we watch YouTube to escape freaking high school and had to distract from work and to distract from freaking our daily lives and so on. But they are themselves about our daily lives, and they're often about academia and school, and the people that you respect or care about that you watch that do these kinds of videos are themselves like seeking the approval and sort of calibrating themselves based on experts in these fields and the people that are still like looping back into the boring academia that nobody wants to deal with. Because at least the people that are worth watching care about that kind of stuff and are looping back around to that stuff because they're trying to like do this correctly. One of the biggest compliments I ever got was there was somebody in the comments in the Lego She Is Gay video that particularly said that like they were getting their master's thesis and they're going through the master's thesis process and everything. I don't remember if they were getting their master's thesis or if they were somebody that approves those or not, but it was that they made the point that like that video was essentially a like thesis argument. Like that was like I essentially worked on this big ass project that I could have potentially maybe presented as a like in the process of getting like a master's degree. Like that's the kind of thing this is, like having that loop back around, whether or not that was an authentic, whether or not that was like a not authentic, but like variable, whatever, whether or not that is an accurate compliment or not, that's like a wild thing for somebody to say, because that's such a specific form of getting it. Because not only the idea of like getting the honor of like somebody acknowledging the scope of what you worked on, but also like understanding that that's essentially what you're doing. Is we are still just recreating the school system. Like these are high school and college videos. These are projects of those ilk. And some of the people even that make it big on YouTube sometimes are just putting their college work on YouTube at times. I just find that really engaging and interesting to think about. So it would behoove you to try to pay more attention in school if you can make yourself do so, because the line between the stuff you're watching on YouTube that's entertaining to you and the stuff that's boring the shit out of you in school is a much, much thinner line than it seems like, and it's really blurry, and there's a lot of overlap to be had there, and it's worth applying your curiosity there as well. But I do acknowledge that it's also a fundamental difference between some nerd enthusiastically explaining a thing that they worked on for months versus like your poor, beleaguered high school teacher that has to work there all day, every day, and then go home and prepare lessons in between and just has to be present continuously and isn't a pre-scripted, edited video and so on. But I do find that interesting because of how often this stuff is used in school. Like for a long time now, we've been SciShow and Crash Course by the Vlogbrothers, which were, I think, co-sponsored by PBS at one point and so on, have been used in schools as genuine lessons, because that the whole goal of Crash Course, I should actually bring this up. The whole deal with Crash Course was the fact that like these are supposed to be democratizing education a bit, making it free and publicly available via these series of like 10-minute videos that just break down entire topics bit by bit as a thing that you can watch. And I was pretty hooked to this back when it first came out like a decade ago. I think that admittedly the schoolness of it kind of like wore me down, and I ended up not always watching it all the time. Oh Jesus, I wonder why this one's so popular now. Oh, we've known about this for a long time. Crash Course World History, they were already at 223 parts a decade ago. Wow. This has been a very, very busy channel in the time since. The Vlogbrothers are wild for that. But yeah, this is where the Ouroboros eats itself and loops all the way back around, and you are genuinely making high school courses on YouTube that then get used in high school as supplementary material for teachers and so on. There's a dark side to this. There's a lot of false. I can't stress enough how authoritative this format is of doing a video essay and so on, and how oftentimes the emperor has no clothes, I guess. Like, the person involved is not nearly as informed as they seem to be, or their arguments are not as bulletproof as they seem to be. So it's worth noting that this kind of YouTube format, you can speak very authoritatively about something and convince a lot of people of something, and it can just be lies. And that's kind of a danger of the format. And so what if Crash Course is the angel here, the fucking devil, of course, is that on the other side you have PragerU, which is a weird far-right conservative propaganda machine that's funded by lunatics and is increasingly used in states that have very bad school systems and are willing to just show weird far-right propaganda in their classes. And that's just deeply upsetting, because PragerU is just overtly full of lies all the time, but it uses the exact same format. It might have even been directly inspired by Crash Course, but it's just like this horrific nightmare version of Crash Course that's just trying to teach people. It's trying to teach freaking kids that gay people aren't real and stuff like that. And you're like, what the fuck is happening here? But I find this very interesting because I've been super hooked to video essays for like over a decade now. And as a result, I finally ended up making some. But also, some of the classics that I've watched over the years, I've watched them so much that I now can poke like huge holes in their arguments and the way that they're presented, and see major flaws in those videos that the creators themselves probably see, but the audience largely doesn't, because they listen to the video once or twice while multitasking and move on, and they might internalize information and arguments without fully understanding what they are bringing into their brain, and whether or not any of that's verified or well structured as an argument. Something that really got me is that media literacy has become a buzzword lately, and it does have a place as a term, but people use it very flippantly. And in particular, what's really struck me is that somebody once said to me that they should have had media literacy courses in high school. And I was like, they did. It was called literature. It's the same. You might have noticed it's like almost the same word, because it's the freaking same, which you would know from literature. It's the root word of the thing. It's just, that's how English works. I'm just like, we specifically did have classes about and analyzing things and understanding them and engaging on that level. And it's why I think it's one of the upsides of people paying more attention in school, hopefully, is just the fact that, like, if you can get the stuff in, you learn important skills about how to work through the world. It's just filtered through this weird mess of it all kind of not being handled the best possible way. But like, we do have media literacy courses in high school. I don't know how good your specific one is, but like, that's where I learned all this stuff. I am taught by high school and college and other video essayists by osmosis how to do anything that I did. I did not receive unique and specialized training in what I do. In fact, I specifically do not have an English degree. I do not have a film degree. I do not have any kind of related degree in college that would help me do my job. I have a geology degree. I am not an expert in any unique, like, ivory tower, whatever the fuck, Golden Gate. I'm really not coming up with terminology today. I am not in any kind of gatekeeping, like, you need money and education to do this whatever way, uniquely separate from you in terms of what let me make the videos that I've made, because my education was not related to doing this stuff. I just kind of was inherently already pretty on top of things with English. Like, I literally took the English test at the beginning of college, and I tested out of having to take English. So I actually have no college education related to writing, because all of my writing and literature stuff, I apparently just was good enough at that stuff out of high school that I didn't need to take any of it for my college degree. So like I don't even know what those classes are like, basically. I took one math course in all of college, which was I took calculus my last semester. Other than that, I was just doing general ed for my geology degree. So I was like taking some random things, like fun things. Like I took magic, witchcraft, and religion, and I took Norse mythology and other fun things along the way. I was taking in some cases like the memeiest classes I could that fulfilled this or that requirement, because by and large, I was just kind of having to kill time while I got through my major, which was first computer science. Then I flunked out of that and I switched to geology. And now I'm here, not using either of those degrees. For me, I guess the ending point of all this is that the things that bore you and the things that interest you are more related than you think. And I want everyone to just be more curious all the time about everything, because I think we only benefit from people being curious and genuinely having an intellectual interest in academia and like frameworks of analysis and fun terms like that, which sound intimidating, but they're actually really fun when you just get invested in them. And a struggle I've had both as a creator and as just a person talking to human beings in real life is that there is an anti-intellectualism that has kind of taken over, or maybe has always been here, but it just feels really bad right now, where people dismiss things as overthinking. They dismiss things as overcomplicated. They say that they can't engage with something because it's too hard. And so it leads to this like lazy way of going through life where, and I don't want to say too lazy too flippantly, because, you know, if you're working multiple jobs, you're dealing with a lot and so on, and raising a family or anything else that might be really eating you up. But when a lot of people make stuff that is meant to stimulate you intellectually, the response is often to dismiss it as pretentious and overthinking and so on, and then pivot back to watching slop. And it's like, that's not good. That's not good for you, because it's not making you a more curious and engaged and interesting person. And it's not good for the media that you're dismissing as being too high-minded, because then that whole genre suffers, and the genre that creates slop gets more popular and makes more money, and the genre that you're neglecting to engage with withers in the vine. Not on an individual basis, but collectively when thousands of people make that same decision. So much of the world is based around incentives. The media, each one of these genres will exist in some form at any given time. But as far as how many people are making stuff for it, how often they make stuff for it, how hard they work on that stuff, and so on, there's a lot of that structured by the incentive that, which is in this case is the demand created by the audience, and also in YouTube's case, the algorithmic push, which is itself a form of expression of audience behaviors and demand and so on. And so like when people engage more with certain types of content, they make that content more popular, which means they make it more numerous, which means they make it more powerful. And so that is a thing to think about in terms of our intentionality on YouTube and on the internet. A thing that they're trying to rob from us. The TikTokification of the world, which was already happening before TikTok, but has gotten worse with TikTok, is they push towards the idea of just giving you a front page where all you do is scroll, and you just keep getting served with stuff that you didn't ask for and you don't have any say in, really. It's your Twitter feed, it's the TikTok just keep scrolling effect. It's YouTube wanting you to just sit there and look at its shorts, or just look at its front page and not look at your subscriptions page, and not bookmark people's profiles and actually manually watch videos and so on, like the old days. The old internet where you went to destinations and sought things on purpose, and virality was so ever present, and a video like Chocolate Rain was so known to everyone, or Double Rainbow and so on, because it was shared amongst friends and sought out manually and was word of mouth instead of algorithms. That's all gone. Now it's just about having your extremely specific silo online where you are served content that reflects your behaviors and will in many cases make you worse. So just think about it a bit. I didn't think that's where this video was going.